Welcome, everyone. This is Juan Soto live from Chicago. This is the Access User Groups, SQL Server User Groups. And I apologize for the lighting. It looks like I'm not trying to be mysterious here, but I just got back from seeing a law firm here in downtown Chicago. That's why I'm wearing my Microsoft partner logo shirt there. And let me just get him the information. Susan, I don't know if you have that. Let me get it for him. And I had an interesting meeting with them. He gave us a call because he needed somebody to take over an existing .NET application. Now, I do mostly, our firm is mostly known for Access with SQL Server, but he asked me to come in and we took a look at his system. And he was quite frustrated with his existing programmer. He tells me, Juan, I need help with my system, and I'm frustrated with this guy. And shows me an invoice that this individual sent to him. And the invoice was, I believe, like 34 hours at $5,000 something with no description, no task. What is it for 5Gs? And I told him, I said, we don't invoice that way. If you get an invoice for $5,000 from my firm, IT Impact, you would see a list of tasks that we did and what we accomplished, and at least you can go through it and see it. So at the very least, you'll be getting better invoices from me. And I was honest with him. I said, look, I appreciate you want us to take over this system from this existing programmer, but taking over somebody else's system is probably one of the most difficult tasks any company would do, right? And I said, usually what we do is we do what's called phase 0, which is, in this case, 3 days. And then day 1, we come on site and we sit down with a power user and we go through all the functionality of the program and we make notes and we take pictures and do that. Sometimes I do it remotely. That way I can record it and be able to have that available for the programming team that's going to come behind me. But I told them, look, day 1 we do that. So day two of the phase 0 proposal, we're going there and do an in-depth analysis of the software, understand and try to evaluate how well designed is the software. Does he have comments in the code? Is it laid out logically? Is this something that was done by a professional developer? Was it more like in-house? And then day 3, we reserve that in case we need it for more software analysis, or we do also a database analysis on his system to understand the database. Do the tables have proper primary keys, secondary keys? Does he use store procedures? Does he use views? Because it's a SQL Server-based system. And I was frank with him. I said, look, this is not cheap. If I have to take over, you're looking at thousands of dollars and weeks of effort. And I said, usually what happens is I like to do small tasks up front with your new system, with this new system I'm trying to learn. I do small tasks, get my feet wet, and then we hit the larger stuff in a matter of weeks and months. And eventually we'll be able to know your system like the back of our hand. I have no doubt, I told him, I have no doubt that we're going to do a great job with the system. But it's going to take us time to get there, and it's going to cost you money. On the plus side, now you're dealing with a group of programmers and not just a one-man show. And so he liked the sound of that. And then I told him my rate, which was significantly more than what an existing programmer was charging him. And he said he was okay with that. He says, I'm okay with that. And basically, this system runs his business. He's got 10 employees there, downtown Chicago. It's a lawyer law firm that deals with insurance claims, and he's expanding to multiple states. And I told him that we could definitely help him expand. And then he wants to extend it to a web portal so his clients can log into a web portal and be able to see the results of the work that they're doing, the work product. So this has a huge potential upside for us with a client that can be with us for many years to come, which is great. And it all starts with a phase 0 analysis, be able to understand that. So that's why I'm wearing my official Microsoft shirt today. I just came back from that appointment. Well, look, we got a lot to talk about today. Not so much, I have some amazing news regarding Microsoft Access that you guys are going to love. But let's get to the beginning of this, and that is we are not having the Microsoft MVP Summit live in Redmond this year. We got canceled because of the coronavirus, and it's going to be virtual. And I saw this coming. I said, "This is no way that they're going to do this with all these people." And Washington State is the epicenter of this coronavirus. Until recently, now New York looks like there's a cluster in upstate New York that they called in a National Guard on this afternoon. And so now we're doing it virtualized. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to press the flash, literally. And Armenstein had to cancel the Access Day, which is unfortunate. But we're going to be doing those sessions virtually. And I really love it because I get a chance to meet with a lot of my friends. Maria Barnes, who's another Access MVP. She heads up the Access Lunchtime Group, which I recommend that you come see. And let's see, Mark, are you on the meeting? Yeah, Mark Edwards. Welcome, Mark Edwards. I'm in the chat here, so I just want to say welcome, Mark, here to latest employee. Mark Edwards just joined the firm here last week, and so I wanted to officially welcome him to this this meeting here.
Well, thank you. Having a blast so far.
Great. So where was I? Oh yeah, I enjoyed going to the summit because I made my friends that I don't meet only once a year. They're especially the ones from Europe, and it's going to be unfortunate, but and then we have the night events with the free liquor and the food and all the little gifts that they give us. I mean, last year I got a lot of stuff. I got a beautiful jacket with the Access logo, a black jacket with Access, which I tweeted out a photo of. And usually we get something from the MVP program. Then we get something from the Access team. And last year the Access team went bonkers. They gave us a coffee mug, they gave us free shirts, they gave us jackets, they gave us a USB, they gave us travel chargers. It was like, it's just give them as much as we can. And I was hoping that we, with this year, I get a chance to meet the new Access program manager, which is Ebo. And that didn't happen. So, but we're going to have the conference starting next Monday, virtualized. Because of that, I called American Airlines and I said, "Hey guys, due to the coronavirus, I can't go. Can you refund me the ticket?" "No." "What do you mean no?" I said, "No, we don't see anything out here that says that you're allowed to get the refund. You purchased a non-refundable ticket." In the meantime, I'm hearing all my colleagues who are trying to Delta and says, Delta says, "Oh yeah, sure. We'll refund you. We'll let you, we'll waive the change fee, and you can use that credit," because I travel a lot for business and personal. I love traveling. And so I'm hearing all this stuff from the Delta because I'm on these groups and WhatsApp and Slack and all that, and I see all this chatter going back and forth. I'm stuck with these tickets. I already lost one ticket because I had to cancel a trip last week for a client, a new customer I was going to meet out in Boston for a day. And now I might lose this one. And so that's it. I'm done with American Airlines. Done. Fin, kaput, fin, done. I'm going to switch to Delta. And so I'm going to apply for the Delta American Express Gold Platinum card or whatever they call it, and get 100,000 miles out of it and all that. So I'm in the process of switching everything over from American to Delta. So that's my rant on traveling for the coronavirus. Look, the fact of the matter is, we're living in some trying times. You need to adjust your business accordingly. So I met with my sales team last Tuesday. I meet with my sales team last Monday, excuse me. I meet with them Monday morning. Why do I meet with my sales team Monday morning? Because Monday morning, my clients and my potential leads are just coming into the office and they're organizing the week. And the last thing they want to do is hear from some sales guy like me saying, "Hey, it's Juan with IT Impact. I wanted to follow up on the proposal I submitted 2 weeks ago," what have you. Says, "Dude, I just got into the office Monday morning. Let me breathe a little bit," right? So we meet with our sales team. I have a worldwide sales team that we meet Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. And Monday I told him, I says, "Look, we need to scrap our sales plan for the year. This is it. We need to redo our sales plan. We had this wonderful sales plan to kick ass sales in North America. Because last year we beat our sales plan by 10%. And this year we wanted to beat it by 50% because we came up with some new techniques and new ways to increase our sales that we're really excited about." But then the coronavirus happened. So look, I meet with my salesman. I says, we need to rethink this approach. And well, how are we going to do this? Well, I said, this crisis worldwide happening is you have companies that are producing these little bottles. What do you call those bottles, Mark, that you have that you disinfect your hands with? Hand sanitizers, right? If you own a hand sanitizer company right now, it's working 24/7 producing these little bottles because you cannot buy a bottle of hand sanitizer in the U.S. as of right now in Chicago, right? And probably throughout the U.S. I mean, these things are, as soon as they come off the truck, they're being sold by the case. And so I said, okay, let's approach this from the aspect of healthcare companies, companies that health insurers and insurance companies, medical supply companies, manufacturing companies that do health supplies, such as masks, any equipment, medical equipment company, pharmaceutical companies. We need to refactor our sales plan to address how we can help these companies during this moment of crisis. We need to design a Twitter campaign, scrap our Twitter campaign right now, create a new one on Twitter and on LinkedIn and on Facebook that demonstrates the value Microsoft Access can have with a trying time that we're living now. And then also, George has a great point, and that is, if you got employees who are working from home and the VPN is not working for you, it's because Access by itself does not work over VPN. I mean, you could get it work, but getting it to work doesn't mean to me launching the Access application and waiting 3 minutes for the main form to show up, and then waiting 5 minutes to post a record. That's not working. That's just insane. And yes, I've had companies call me, and that's the norm with them or VPN. Oh, it works, but it takes me 5 minutes to enter a record. This is, well, no, it doesn't work. I mean, that doesn't work, right? So we have a lot of experience of migrating Access to SQL Server and need to leverage that. So, George, thank you so much for that idea. I'm meeting with the sales team again Thursday morning, and I will present the George idea to them about working from home and getting your Access application to work remotely. So, scrapping the sales plan for 2020 was a radical decision, but you need to move quickly in a crisis, because the last thing I want to do is be economic impacted and realize that by June, I'm not meeting my sales plan, and therefore I might run into cash flow issues, right? I've got employees, I got a new employee like Mark Edwards who just signed on, and I take my payroll responsibilities very seriously. And the whole 30 years I've been doing this, I've only missed payroll once in 30 years with doing this. So I don't plan on doing this now. So we have credit lines that we can tap into, personal savings I have. Heck, I'll even mortgage a house if I have to, because this company is really precious to me. I want to make sure that our employees get paid. But before we have to do all of that, it starts with a new sales plan, right? Okay, so I am going to be talking with my clients and sending them an email later on this week on the coronavirus and how we can help them out with that. Right. So I've got some two things I want to talk to you guys. Number one, I've got an announcement that I just got from the Access team today on some new features. And number two, I want to share with you guys the ideas and the recommendations of I was going to get live in Redmond, Washington, what I want to see Access to go to, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys tonight. But first, I got this wonderful email, and I apologize for the background noise because the dogs just got back from walking. So let me locate this email from Ebo, and let's see here. Focused search. Send receive. Well, it looks like I don't know why my phone is here, Ebo. And this is public knowledge, because a lot of times I get these emails and I can't share with anybody because it hasn't hit the the rings of, because we have several rings, right? They have the insider ring, and then you have the monthly ring, then you have the semi-annual ring, and 365. Now that Mark is part of 365 with us, he's probably going to experience this. And what we do is we practice dog food eating, right? So we're on the monthly ring for our customers. So when we get hit when he bugs, we can alert our customers right away. And we have multiple VMs that we run, right? So, like, for example, Mark and I will have a VM for customer work. Then we have another VM where we install this insider ring. And then we'll have another VM that we might do a monthly ring. And so ideally, each developer should have at least 3 VMs, right? You got the starter ring, which is the fast and furious ring, right? Because you want to make sure that that's where you get the latest features, but also the latest bugs. And then you got the monthly ring, which is what we normally operate on. And then we have the semi-annual ring. If the monthly ring fails you, you can always go to the semi-annual ring. So we have licenses for Windows 10, and we can start up VMs, and we use either Hyper-V or other ones. All right, let me locate this email here. Control F. Why is this not working? My email here. No, I don't want to do that. I want to show you my email because I got some confidential stuff here. Oh, yeah, it's now I know my box. Here we go. All right. Why my search search at the top. They move search to the top of Outlook. Well, here we go. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen with you guys. I can share this email. Screen 1, screen 2. All right. Okay. So this is the new feature. Let me expand this here. The Access team has done like a lot of great work this month and last month on the new query window. If you've seen my latest blog post, and if you haven't, go read it. There was some improvements in terms of being able to do search. Now, in the old days, you would bring up a query in Access, and it would you would in the SQL code, right? And you had to do copy replace. I would copy it to Notepad, do my changes in Notepad, Notepad++, and then copy it back. You don't have to do that anymore. You can search within a complex SQL statement and replace something. Let's see if I can double click on this image to show you guys a better one. See, looks like this is it. All right, so basically the concept here is now when you go to show tables, you know how you had that pop-up window that would come up in the query window? Show tables, not anymore. This is what you get here on the side here panel. Add tables, and there's 3. You can hardly see. There's tables, links. So you only see link tables. I thought that was pretty neat. Queries and all. So that's what you see here at that. On the left-hand side at the top, you'll see tables, links. And links means you can see only link tables because sometimes you have, most of our applications have linked SQL Server tables. That's good. Then you got a search box. This is neat. I can do a search box. Now, I used to do this with the database window, and I would drag that over. So I'm going to show you guys how I used to do this and give you an idea that this was a little bit possible here. So I'm going to bring up an Access application here. Show you guys how I usually do this. So I got my tables here. I'll just create a query here. You guys see my screen? Just let me know if you can see it. So notice that there's no search form here at the top.
Yeah, I got it. See it.
All right. So here you can just drag. If you didn't know, you could know this. You can just drag these tables to the query. So stop me if you've seen this before, but you can drag tables over, which I always did. I would just ignore that initial window that come up, and I would just pick and drag. So now you know that you can just pick and drag from there. And then look at this. You can multi-select table list items. So you can multi-select tables and hopefully drag them to the query window, which I did before. And I believe I can do this here. So let me see if I hold the control key. Let me just click on this one and see if it. Yeah, I can do that with this one too. So that's something I could do before. So this is good. So it's non-modal. All All right, and then he goes on to explain if you're an Office Insider, you get there. Now, you could, word of caution here, could, what can I try to say? You could switch to Insider right now if you're on 365. Right? It shows you the instructions on how to do that. Word of caution, if you do that and it's on the production machine, you're going to run into issues one day. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to run into issues right now, but one day you'll run into issues. So I don't recommend you use the Insider ring for your normal production machine. All right. So Ebo, is our latest program manager, and he's doing a gang up job. I mean, he is done a great job with making an impact. He as soon as he arrived on scene, he reached out to all the MVPs. We did a meeting, online conference real quick. He's reached out to us for ideas and sounded us off on. He's really he's a good listener, which is great in the manager, and he's making an immediate impact. So those are the three things I love about manager that we had. The last two managers before Eva was I forgot her name. She's gonna kill me if she finds out I forgot her name. And before that, this prior manager and this current manager, I'm really happy with these teams that we have before and now. And good listeners, reach out for feedback, and implement some real world improvements. And why is this important? Because I constantly get asked by potential leads and customers who use us. Well, I heard Access was going away. I says, well, no, it's not going away, and this is the proof. If it were going away, Microsoft was going away. I do need some water. We need two packages of that, by the way. So, I get this guy who says, "Oh, Access is going away." I said, "No, it's not going away. Here is the proof. They're making improvements. Look at this great stuff. Look at this good stuff." So, it's just a wonderful way to be able to demonstrate to the community at large. Number one, Access is not going away. Number two, it's not static. Number three, Microsoft is pouring resources into their product, right? So that's a great way. What do you guys think about this? These new features? Are you excited about using them? Nice. That's Greg from Cambodia. Thanks, Greg. All right. So, Michelle Barr. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you. Looks interesting. Someone commented. All right. I appreciate the feedback. All right. So now let's get to do, and that is, I take this MVP stuff really seriously because of the fact that I gather. Thank you very much. I feel like Colbert, where he's reached out, and if you watch Colbert now, he's always reaching out on camera, drinking virtual drinks here. But I take this MVP stuff really seriously, and I gather feedback from not just from you guys, also clients, and I take that to the team at Microsoft because they have this ivory tower feeling, right? They're up there in Redmond. They're dealing with the product. They're not consultants. They see the user community feedback. They see user voice, but they're not on the front lines like we are, dealing with the product day in and day out, not using the product so much for mission critical applications, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I go to an MVP summit and somebody had a wine database example or the baseball card example. And George, who's on this call, who used to be an MVP, can relate to that frustration I used to have because I would mention to George, please, not another baseball card example. And you can't blame them because they're not seeing the ERP applications that we see. They're not seeing the insurance applications that we see. All these complex operations that you can perform with Access. So they're starving for feedback from the MVP community. And so I take this really seriously. And one of the things that I relish is the MVP Summit, where I can tell them about what I think the product should do in terms of going forward. And to their credit, they listen. They listen to not just me, but they listen to a lot of the MVPs, and really take it to heart. So there's just George just commented that he agreed with me on the baseball cards. So the first thing that I mentioned to Access team is we really need a connection object to SQL Server and Access. Now, if you used to work, raise your hand if you used to work with ADPs and Access. Well, I came late to the ADP party. I wish I come in a little earlier because maybe I could have helped save that product. But ADP, for those who don't know, used to be an old file format that was supported by Microsoft Access prior to 2017, 2003, excuse me, and before that, where it would allow you to enter connection properties for a SQL Server, and it would read those tables automatically. So they weren't linked tables; it would just show up as native tables. And James knows what I'm talking about. You can see all these comments, by the way. If you launch the comment window there, Mark, if you use WebEx now for the first time, you can launch it. The WebEx client, you can see those comments and comment there. But it was wonderful. I mean, you would see views. You could use, this is how wonderful it was. This is how amazing ADP was. You could use a store procedure as a record source for a form. You cannot do that right now. You can use a store procedure as a record source, but you have to do it through a, let's see, how can you use a store procedure? Anybody know?
Through query.
Pass-through query. Says Susan Pine, the Access User Groups coordinator for the organization. You're one of my senior Access developers. Thank you, Susan. So it was wonderful. I mean, it was great. Now, for whatever reason, the Access team killed this. But they're still out there. And the problem with ADPs now, and I just had a client, that was the one from Boston, right? The Boston client that was going to go fly out last week. He has an ADP system, needs to be converted to ACSDB. The problem is it does not on Windows 10. It doesn't at all in 2016. So if you want to migrate to 2016 or 2019, it won't work. It's important that you transition over because obviously, most importantly, it is buggy. And Microsoft has not fixed those bugs. There's a whole list of bugs for ADP. Anyway, so I said in my email to the team, let's create a connection object and SQL and Access, not unlike what you see in VB.NET. If you ever use VB.NET, you can set up a connection object for the application and that handles connectivity to SQL Server. Because what happens currently is if you have a SQL Server with Access application that's got linked tables, every time you open a form with linked tables or query, use code, Access is opening multiple connections from the computer to SQL Server, right? So let's assume that you have an Access application. It's not unusual for the application to have, for example, 3 open connections to SQL Server. Well, if you got 10 people using the app, that's 30 connections. And sometimes, I know this, but SQL Server Standard Edition, I say by connection as opposed to by CPU. And so you could easily bump against the limit of connection and it will refuse connection. I've had that case happen to me with clients over the years who decided to go, for whatever reason, they decided to use the connection module, which I don't recommend unless you have 1 or 2 connections, 1 or 2 users, right? That CAL license as opposed to using the CPU license. I think most people these days buy the CPU license. So that's one problem. You run up against the licensing restriction. Number 2 is every time you open a connection, you're consuming resources on SQL Server, right? Because SQL Server doesn't know that it knows it's the same PC coming with it from an application, but it opens these connections. Now it's got to assign resources to it. It consumes memory. It's just a hassle in SQL Server. You go into SQL Server and you list the number of connections. Then bonus points to anybody who knows how to type a query. So type in the comments there for me. Query in SQL Server that tells you all the open connections. But if you go in there and you type in the SP that tells you when the open connections, you see all these open connections across the and it just kills the Access vibe, right? For the IT manager, I can't tell you how many times the IT manager calls me up and says, "Why are you using 30 connections to my SQL Server? There's only 10 users." And I'm like, yeah. And there's no way to control that in Access. There's no way to funnel those connections or force Access to use one connection for all queries and forms. Now, I say that, saying that, does anybody know how to see the open connections? I'm going to give you a hint. It's an SP, super procedure. SP underscore what? Type in the comments so you know what it is. But the fact of the matter is that in IT Impact, we know how to do this using code. If you follow my easy ADODB methodology, which is explained in my blog, we create one connection object in the code, and we funnel everything through that connection object. So when it comes to code, we reduce the connections to one, which is great. But that's just one side of the house. If your application is using forms, reports, queries, it's opening all these connections up, right? And you got to minimize that. Susan just went through this project for a client of ours that does fabrication plants. They do silicon chips for these are huge factories, right? Chip fabs, they call them fabs. They create chips, and they're using Access to manage their equipment there. And they're running up against a connection. Like that's another thing. You have a connection in Access itself, which I didn't know until that particular company reached out to me with this issue. But they have tremendous problems with connection objects, limitations they were heating up against. All right. So that was one of my first suggestions. And by the way, it's SP who is, right? SP underscore who is your list of everybody who's connected to the server at that time. And I believe it doesn't include connections, but at least it gives you a sense of who's connected to the server. All right. The second thing that I recommended is, and I think a lot of you are going to appreciate this, I would love to be able to take a directory and make that a link table in Access, right? So think about the things we can do right now with link tables. You can create SQL Server tables as link tables. You can create Excel spreadsheets as link tables, right? You can create SharePoint tables as link tables. So you got these three. You can do. Well, I'd like to add another link table, which is a read-only directory object. Now, why is that important? Well, a lot of times we develop document systems for clients. And we actually have technology we call the Document Center in Access. And actually, I can show that to you guys. Let me show that to you real quick. Let me close this. And just start this up. Open orders. I'll just bring up any order here. This is a SQL Server backend database. All right. And this is the Document Center. And so these are documents that are stored in the table in SQL Server. But if it's a local network, right? In other words, if it's not a cloud-enabled backend, it's a local SQL Server. We won't store it in SQL Server. We'll store it in a directory on the client's network. And it'd be great if it showed up as a link table here in the application. Why is that great? Because one of the things that we would love to see is be able to open that link table and see all the files as a record in that table, right? I get the file name, the date it was last updated, maybe the user who created that file, the date and time it was created, the size in megabytes, the metadata associated with that file, right? So if you go into Windows Explorer and you right-click here, like properties, you have a lot of metadata that you can do, right? Look the size on disk, created, modified, accessed, security tabs. All of this will be created in the table. Why is that important? Because now, if I need to, a lot of times, stop me if you heard this. A lot of times you walk into a new customer, and they say, "Oh yeah, we store that in the directory. Every client has a directory, or every order has a directory, or every insured has a directory on that network." So when I go to see the insured, I have to go to that directory, locate the insured, and they have thousands of folders. Locate the insured, and then see the file I'm looking for, and then click to open it. Well, if I have it as a linked table, I can pop that for you right away, right? So here, if I go into this directive, if this were a linked table, I can just click on the number, the application file, and it will just pop open right away. So that would be just an amazing, great way of being able to do this. Yeah, file stream is a technology with SQL Server. Greg from Cambodia, great comment there. So let me just close the door here, be right back. Yeah, file stream is works great and it's pretty robust. I have not had a chance to play with it. So it's been out for many years now, and I have done and played mostly because I do the table with the special field type, right? So if you have a SQL Server, you can store documents in a special field. Which, gosh, what is the field type, Susan, for storing documents, images, recordings, PDFs? There's a field type in SQL. A blob? Yeah, I don't think it's called blob in SQL Server.
SQL? Just give me a second and I'll find out for you.
All right, so we'll get that for you. Let's see here. Yeah, Mark, just all right. Okay. So that was the second idea I had. So we'd love to be able to create a directory like it were a link table, right? And I don't know how you would handle transverse directory, right? So if I do the directory, maybe there'll be a record there for folders, right? Then I don't know if it'll transverse, right? Who knows? You know how sometimes you can have nested tables in Access, you can hit the plus sign. For example, you may have the order header table, and hit the plus sign, and then you see the details of each order from the order details table. Maybe we can do that. Now, it's the third idea. The third idea here is, what if we revamped the browser control in Access? I don't know if you guys ever use the browser control, but I'm going to show you what that is. This is the design view. And if I go into my design menu here and I hit this, there is a browser control, I believe. I don't ever, here it is. I believe that's it right here. Yeah, web browser control. Well, don't use it, because the fact of the matter is that it's using really old technologies, using Internet Explorer 6.0, something like that. I mean, it's just horrendous to work with. And my proposal here is to revamp it. I would love it to use this one right here, right now. This is Internet Explorer. What do you call this new Edge, right? The Edge browser. So let's use the Edge browser. Just update it. Just go ahead and update it. It's what 96 or 4, whatever it is, from 20 years ago. I'm exaggerating, of course. Internet wasn't born 20 years ago. But, it's old technology. Let's replace it, so we can have a modern browser control. Now, I can't tell you the internal deliberations, because I'm bound by NDA, as to why they haven't done it yet. There is a good reason why. I can't tell you. But I submitted it again for the MVP Summit. And why is this important? Because most advancements in technology are coming through the browser, not coming through Access or Office or Word or Outlook. One of the biggest ones is Azure. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the Azure team is releasing 2 new services every day in the Azure ecosystem on average. Now, think about that. They're releasing 600 plus new features a year in Azure. And the Azure management team told me they don't release more because it drives their enterprise customers nuts. Because these features have to be validated, and then people have to test it, and it's just you're choking the ecosystem with their clients. It says, the IT department says, like, oh no, you're bombarding me with too much stuff, and I may not end up using that feature because it's just too much, right? So they have to throttle back the features they're releasing in Azure. The general population can keep up. And so if you have a modern browser control, that's okay. Binary. Thank you very much. By the way, that's the field type. Thank you, Susan. Story blobbers when a database noise. I can't. I can't catch up. But all right. So yeah, I'm using the new browser Edge that has a Chromium background engine because I live on the cutting edge there. But so if you had a control that was modern, that allows you to do things that any modern browser can do, think about the possibilities. And the number one possibilities is Power Apps and Power BI. You can have an embedded Power App as an access form. Now think about that, right? You've got this wonderful Power App that you designed for a corporate that's collecting data on the web. People love it. You design an amazing Power App. People love it. They use it. They want to use it to the point where they would love to see a new access application. Well, great. You Power App inside the browser control form. Done. Or you had this technology that you want to incorporate to Access, the Access would not normally consume. Now, I've had my fair of trying to incorporate Azure features into Access. And one of them was 2 years or 3 years ago, I did a proof of concept where you can use a Microsoft Q&A. Have you guys remember that you could chat bot in Access where you can submit questions and the bot will reply back to you within an access form, right? And that was using JSON, and it wasn't terribly difficult to figure it out. Also because I had Sandu helping me, who used to work for me and now work for Microsoft. Nothing like Microsoft purging your employees from you, right? But I see it as validation of my hiring practices and the fact that they know that we're on the cutting edge. That they would come and take my employees away from me. But they leave for work for Microsoft, and then they still helping me out, and I got the inside track on the department they're in. But he helped me get that up and running by consuming the JSON service that the Azure service will reply back to an Access, and be able to incorporate that chatbot in a native text label control. Excuse me. And there's actually a video if you want to see that. And Susan, if you can find that for me, that'd be great. Just search Juan Soto. And Q&A, query Nancy answer. That was an example, but that took a lot of work. There's a whole range of Azure functions and Azure resources that we consume. One of them is now, it used to be called Microsoft Flow. Now what's it called? They have a new name for it. Let's see here. Microsoft Flow is now Power Automate, right? Now they call it Power Automate. So family, right? You got Power Apps, Power Automate, who knows what other things they have here. And so with Microsoft Flow, if this happens, then they do this other thing, right? It's just another if then that substitute. And Susan has used this for some of her projects. She's also an expert Microsoft CRM. She uses it there as well. And it's just a way to leverage Microsoft Access, right? So how would you use Power Automate? All right, let's think about that. Let's say, for example, you're the CEO of a company like Air France, right? And you have some income objectives that you want to meet for 2020, which good luck with that. Now that air travel is going down. All right, now say, for example, you want to know if your bookings could fall below 50% normal, right? You could, in theory, set up a Power Automate that's monitoring your SQL Server tables and see and a view. There might be a view in their SQL Server database, right? That calculates a percent drop in reservations by day. Power Automate sees that and then sends them an email or a text message saying, alert, your bookings fell by 50% today. Q&A, query Nancy Alpha. Yeah, Susan was asking me about the Q&A. And so you could alert management. Let's say, for example, you're another CEO or another manager, and you want to know if an order that exceeds $50,000 that came in, right? Because you would love to know that. So, oh, man, I want to know immediately when orders when the norm is 30,000. I want to know when the $50,000 order comes in, or when the $50,000 order is approved and it's booked. And so you can set up all these kinds of notifications using SQL Server in the cloud, using Power Automate in Outlook in the cloud to send emails and those and so forth. So it's just a great way to incorporate Power Automate from a SQL from a database standpoint. Let me see if I can find that article for you, Susan. There, it's called. It was called. What was this? See, Juan Soto, UNA. Let's see here. There's a Microsoft conference. What is it called? There's a Microsoft Summit. There, let's see, Mikhail Bar and I presented together on that. Here, Microsoft at Night. Here we go. Microsoft at Night. Yeah, learn new ways to apply it to Access ecosystem. Let's see here if I put in. Let's see if I put in the link to what I did there. It doesn't look like I did. I need to update that article. My Kyle Bar show. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Okay, yes. So this is a presentation that we did on there, and then this is the test that you can download. So I'll send you guys this thing, and I'll show you the Q&A stuff in a second. I've repeated this several times, so I'm not going to bore you guys to death on this, but I actually did a Access with SQL Server demo of that one like this. So Q&A Microsoft. Q&A Maker. And this is surprisingly easy to do. This chatbot software thing, this is the easiest thing to do from a web standpoint, because all it does, you submit a URL to this. For example, you have a wiki blog, or you had a wiki website, or you had a FAQ website, and you submit that to the bot. It goes and analyzes all of those pages and builds a bot from those pages. So when somebody asks a question, it already knows the answers, right? Now, you could, in theory, use that in your Access applications now by creating a table with questions and answers. But the problem with the technology in Access is, unless the question is asked exactly like the way it is in the table, you're not going to get a response back. Now, I'll give you a great example of this. Let's say, for example, you create a bot for your client. And then the question about this, you say, how do I create an order? Right? The boss, but you would have to have that question exactly the way it is in the table, and the answer would be, in order to create an order, go to the order system and create order and blah, 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 right? Now, with this technology, you can ask the same questions different ways, and it's smart enough to know how to answer it, right? So how to create an order will be one way. How our orders create is another one, right? Create order, just create order, submit that to the bot. So those are just 3 variations on the same question that this technology can handle. That would be a pain in the Microsoft Access. So I, for one, have been working with some clients to start offering this in their Access applications, because sometimes you have some really complex Access applications that could benefit from a bot like this. In particular, when you have something where you work on this 1-year project, and a year and a half into it, somebody asks you a question about, hey, how do I do this? And you're like, wow, it's been like a year and a half since I used that feature. I honestly don't remember too well. Let me look at my notes. So let me do this. Now I'm looking, researching, checking emails. Well, if I have a bot, I can just ask the bot, how do I do that particular thing in the Access application? It will be flying back to me right away. Now, the nice thing about this, there's no code involved. So that is the automatic extraction. It looks at the FAQ page. You can actually tell it to, you can actually give this to a customer, a power user at a customer, and they can manage this going forward, which is I love. So let me send you a link to this. So you guys can take a look at it if you like. What I'm saying here is we design the bot. ITMPet designs the bot, integrates it into Access. And then the customer is the one that maintains, because you're going to have it's going to be a customer who's going to add more questions and more answers, and more questions and more answers. Now, we use a bot here at ITMPet. We call it Niles. And Niles has answers for all the stuff that we do. And I just used it now before I came on to this meeting. I'll give you an example of Niles. How we did that. And let me just see here. Sales. Be careful. Information. Well, I just did that. I think it was marketing. This is how powerful a bot can be. All right. So this is the marketing channel. We use Slack. We're switching over to Teams for calls here. We switch over to Teams for Slack. But this is Slack. Now, what it is now is a bot that we add to here, where we give it answers and it gives us questions. We give it questions and we send that. So it's like a user, right? So when you want to reference what if I want a car mark, I just do @mark, Niles, and WebEx. And then they ask me, okay, you want to, what is the WebEx password, or what are the credentials for the AU WebEx account, or Niles, or DBC? Right. And then Niles is, okay, what are these? But look at this. If I say, okay, Niles, I can say ODBC download, right? It narrows it down to just 3 of them. And I can add right here another option. Choose an option. I think I can add an option here where I can tell it I want to modify this answer and change the answer if I want to. So here, for example, if I do, okay, choose an option number 1, ODBC download link, it gives me that. And then I can click on more answers here. Let me see. And let me see, pick number 2. There's a way where I can edit the answer, be able to do it. All right. So it's just so we have all kinds of things in Niles. I think I even have my fax number, because sometimes I don't know my fax number off heart, and I even put that in there. So Niles fax number. And this is $20 a month, right? So think about it. These guys created a cloud in this database in the cloud, and they have this, and they offer the service to people around the world. And they only charge me $20 a month for my whole company to use it in Slack. It's just a wonderful example of how a bot can help us store information. It's like a live wiki service, if you will. So going back to my recommendation to the Access team is, if we have a modern browser control that's the latest and greatest technology, we can now create rich experiences for our users. But more importantly, and this is how I sold it to them, more importantly, we can foster consumption of more Azure services, foster the consumption of more Azure products. Right? Because here's the thing, that whole organization, that whole Microsoft organization, and you may not be aware of this because you're not a Microsoft partner like I am, or Microsoft Access MVP, but that whole Microsoft organization is focused on and laser focused on online, in Azure, and web services, Office 365, right? This whole Office suite and Access and Outlook and Word, that's now second tier. The first tier is Azure. And so what I love to be able to do, approach Microsoft management, top management, and say, I have an idea to increase your Azure consumption rates. Now, I could post it that way, that I can formulate that way, or I can say, hey, I have an idea about improving Microsoft Access. As soon as I say how to improve Microsoft Access, I lost them already, right? I just lost them. So if I approach the senior vice president at Microsoft, I say, yeah, I have a great idea for Microsoft Access. He's like, oh, God. This is their reaction. Oh, God. Okay, let me hear it. And it's, as opposed to, I have an idea that will increase your Azure consumption rates by at least 20%, say one. Like, oh, really? Tell me more about that. How do I do that? Because they all have goals. Every single one of those top line managers at Microsoft have Azure goals for sales. And they're measured on consumption rates. And they're measuring on their sales goals for Azure. And so my way of getting these guys to invest more in Access to do it that way. Now, notice that the three ideas are submitted. Notice that I didn't ask for a new VBA editor. I didn't ask him to revamp the report control. I didn't ask, it will just fall on deaf ears, right? Number one, because they consider Office and Microsoft Access as a mature product. Oh, it's a mature product. In other words, they're like, oh, yeah, we would, but we think it's a mature product and we're not going to revamp the reports and access, right? So so it's important that we can get more resources for the access team if we can foster the consumption of Azure in general. Now, one of the things that you have to realize when it comes to the access team is there's a finite amount of time that they have to bring new features to Access. And then Robert just said he's sick. He can't train me tomorrow. I trained Wednesday and Friday at 6 a.m. in the gym. All right. And so there's a finite amount of hours because you have the top line guy who is able. Under him, he's got leads, and under the leads, he has programmers, and then there's a certain amount of programmers that you get assigned to the Access team every year, and they only have so many hours in a day. And so, as what he has to balance is, okay, how much bug fixing am I doing versus new features, right? And new technologies and new approaches. So, as much as I'd like them to be able to revamp and create some amazing new thing in Access, I have to be conscious or cognizant of the fact that there's limited resources, and these are the things I let them to focus on. So I'm not bombarding them with 100 items. I'm not sending them ideas that are fringe and will be used by 1% of the population. And by the way, the VBA editor, I don't know if you know this, but the Microsoft Access team has no responsibility for that VBA editor. That's a completely separate team in Microsoft, which I didn't know until last year. When I started a campaign to revamp the VBA editor, I find out that they have no responsibilities with that. However, in fact, the whole VBA editor, VBA IDE, which hasn't improved much in the last 20 years, is used by Outlook, Word, Excel. Everybody uses that VBA editor, and so therefore they create a separate team that does that. And I met with those guys, and I have my own personal opinion on that department, and you can ask me privately, and I'll tell you what it is. I'm not going to go talk about that now here. All right, so I'm getting looks from the wife here. That means dinner's almost ready. Dinner's almost ready? All right, good. Dinner's almost ready, so we're going to wrap it up here. This is a moment where you can ask me any questions, comments, criticisms. Let me know your thoughts about. Do you guys like the presentation today? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, James. Cool, great. You're welcome, George. Appreciate that. Oh, by the way, what ideas would you like to? If you had a direct line to the Access team, what would you say to them? I'd like to come compile. You can email me at jsoto@itimpact.com. That's JSOTO at itimpact.com. You can leave me a message on LinkedIn.com. I'm at linkedin.com/in/Juan Soto. You can also leave a message at the Access with SQL Server group in LinkedIn. But please let me know if you have anything you'd like me to share with the Access team in general. Or you can just tell me right now if you guys want to talk real quick about, we can do that right now. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. So the next time we're meeting would be in April, and that would be the second Tuesday of April, April 14th. Oh, wait a second. Somebody does have James. James, I'd like to see some of the implementation increase. Number of columns, tables, table handles. Yes, that's always something good. Now, James, have you used the 64-bit of Access? Have you come across those implementations 64-bit? Because I'm trying to get people to convert to 64-bit. That's my latest crusade here. I'm 64. Okay, James, very good. So yeah, please send me your questions there regarding columns and index if you would. We Access All Stars. We are at the time of the API economy. What plans do they have for making it easier to work with JSON, XML, and other formats? All right, so I have raised that to the team, and that is the JSON, right? I say, hey guys, Azure is built on JSON. So if we had a native JSON parser in Access, that would go a long way to make it easier to integrate services, right? Because going back to my thinking is, how do I get them to release more dollars or assign more programmers to Access? And they told me that JSON doesn't have a standard structure, which I knew, and it's a little bit more challenging. But I have submitted that idea. That's a great idea. When it comes to APIs, I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, because when we handle APIs at IT Impact is we actually sometimes have to create DLLs in .NET. So we use that Visual Studio.NET, create a DLL, and we have the DLL interface with the API, not Microsoft Access, because we found it a pain to get Access to work with APIs, unless they're super simple. But we just given up on using APIs directly in Access, and we just go the DLL route. So a lot of our developers are Microsoft .NET developers as well, and they just do that. All right, the builder, yes, I love that, Greg, that suggestion. The builder, I'll definitely bring it up with him. Azure with MFA. All right, so I wanted to give you, James, an update in Azure with MFA, multi-factor authentication, if anybody wants to know what this. I do suggest you use the latest drivers, OLADB 18 and ODBC 17. Because they do supposedly they support multi-factor authentication with Access, and I wrote a blog post about that, and I did some additional testing, and it did work for me. So I'd like to hear more from you. If you have a specific example where it does not work, let me know, and let's talk offline, you and I, because I like to be able to send them that sample file to the Access team and say, hey, there's that sample file. MFA doesn't work, because they like to see sample files too. Yeah, please do. Greg Taylor, it would be helpful to have more space in the builder. The Shift F2 builder that people reuse is just a pain. The thing is, but that may be something that is coming better to the Access team. I think Greg, you got a good point there. Let the MVP in to work with the Access team to make improvements, fix bugs. What do you mean by that, John? They let the MVP in. Well, I am in. You want me to work at Microsoft? I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to tell me there. Let the MVP in. Labor for a weekend. James. One thing, I'll tell you right now is I'm not cheap. My labor, in fact, my rates went up last year. This year, my rates went up. I raised my rates. And what's the number one fear people have for raising their rates? They're going to lose customers. Well, I raised my rates across all my customers, and I only lost one. So that's a good trade-off, if you ask me. But I have been hired. IT Impact has been hired by Microsoft, believe it or not. That's why we use our Microsoft logo at AccessExperts.com. We've done projects for Microsoft. Ben Cloutier has, and I have. And we've been, they've known to hire MVPs from time to time to do some work. So we have been hired. It was not cheap either, cheap labor. But that whole organization, again, there's moving to Azure. A lot of that work just dried up. Microsoft Office development is dried up because of the fact that they're doing everything through Azure. Any other comments or questions for me? All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. I see you next April. I don't have a topic yet for next April, but always leave me suggestions via Twitter. JSoto22 is my Twitter handle. Good to see that. And then I will like to stay safe, right? With the coronavirus, stay safe. Don't touch your face like I did. I've been touching my face during my presentation here. It's hard to do this. And thank you for joining us. We always appreciate you coming out. I like doing these. I love doing this. And it's always great when I have a big crowd like I have today. So long from Chicago, everyone. Have a good evening, and we will see you next month.